Hey everybody. Okay, so this video is about A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. Okay, there is the other video also for MLA documentation. I didn't want to do one video because it would have been very lengthy and that just could be very annoying. So I decided to split it up into two. For things that we have like going on like this, I probably will do it two different videos or multiple videos just to, I guess, give myself a break. I don't know. Anyway, so let's get into it. So William Faulkner, okay. So it's a great story. It's a little touchy. However, it's probably one of my favorites. Sorry, I geek out a little bit over this story because it's really fun to do in class, mostly because people kind of interpret it differently, and sometimes I have to help everybody get there. So it was first published in the year 1930, so that kind of gives you a frame of mind if you did not look that up, okay? And it takes place in the fictional town of Jefferson, Mississippi, so this is right after slavery ended, so that's why we still have our wonderful friend Toby, okay? So let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so it's split up into parts, which is cool. You know, Faulkner did that for no real reason, except for his timeline. Okay, so the timeline is very backwards. It confuses most people. So if you felt confused, don't fear. That is normal feeling after this reading. Okay, so we start at the end. We start with her death. Miss Grierson dies, and everybody shows up, not because they actually give a crap about her, but because they're nosy as shit. They're nosy, and they just want to see inside her house and what it looked like. And when you don't know something, you feel like you need to know everything. So that's why they all show up to her funeral. But she was not, make no mistake, she was not a well-loved person in society. Okay. It gives you the idea that it was a very large colonial house. Okay. And that it was, you know, it had coquettish decay. Okay. So it's trying to give you a nice, like, feminine look about it, but also that it's littered with decay, which means she does not take care of her house. Okay. She was a tradition, which also goes back to the state of her house. It was a traditional style house. Okay. Colonel Sartoris was the mayor, and he decides, you know, certain things because he's the mayor, so F it. He also said that Miss Emily's father loaned money to the town, and because of this, they didn't have to pay taxes. Okay, so there is a big deal about the fact that she doesn't pay taxes. After he dies, they're like, hey, Miss Emily, you got to pay your taxes. And she's like, no, you need to go see Colonel Sartoris. And they're like, he did. She is very stuck in her time. She doesn't move forward like the rest of the town, which is a big problem that we will come to later, obviously. Okay, so they have a meeting with her to say that, you know, you have to pay your taxes, you have to do this, you have to put a mailbox up. And she's like, no, sorry. Let's see. They describe her, Faulkner describes her as plump, kind of chunky, which is fine because back in the day that was admired. It meant that you could bear children. However, Emily is single, and she is at this point in her life during the story of Colonel Sartoris coming to her house about taxes. Or, I'm sorry, not Colonel Sartoris, the new mayor, saying she's about like in her 30s-ish. Okay, so she's not old by our standards, but she's old by 1930 standards. Okay, so she's 30. She's not married. She doesn't have kids. This is very like against the grain. So it's just something to think about. Okay. So let's see, where did I leave off? So she, you know, she claims that she has no taxes, and this is just because she's stuck in her ways. And she also really doesn't know any better. You know, her dad is dead at this point. And so is Colonel Sartoris. It's a very complicated story. sorry, I'm trying to look at where everything is to make sure that I didn't leave anything out in that part. Okay, yes, so we start there. Okay, so now, I'll find when his dad dies. When her dad dies, there it is. Okay. Sorry, I lost my own train of thought. Let's see. What the heck? Why did I already miss it? Okay, I don't think I missed it. I think I'm just getting ahead of myself. Okay, so then we go to part 2. Okay, so she vanquishes these people. She dismisses them. She makes Toby her servant, get them out of the house, right? And they say that it's similar to when she dismissed those people's fathers because of the smell. Now, this is something that, it's a very small detail, but it plays a big part. Okay, 2 years after her dad dies and her sweetheart, okay, desert her. Her father's death, she, became essentially a recluse. He was the only person that ever did anything for her or with her. She was essentially tied to him. Okay, and I have theories on this as to why, but I'm gonna just wait. Okay, so he dies, and I gotta figure out where it is. There it is. Okay, so it is in part 2. When her father died, it got about the house. It got about that the house was all that was left to her, and in a way, people were glad. They pitied her. She was a pauper, but now she's humanized because somebody close to her died. Okay, before that, she was kind of above everybody. But she does not allow the coroner to come take her father's body out of the house, which is weird because she's so attached to it. Now, we'll find out later why she does this, but she can't let him go. And this is also because we have no mention of her mother. Okay, so we have Miss Emily's father is the only caretaker that she knows. So that's got to be hard to let go of somebody that you've grown up with, you've been with for so long. Okay. And so people try to persuade her, like, you have to let this body go. And she's like, no. So about 3 or 4 days later, she finally says, okay, fine, you can take him. We'll bury him. Let's do this right. Okay. What is happening? So much is happening. The smell goes away because the men walk around the house. The smell is because of her father's death. Or it could be for something else. But they sprinkle lime across her lawn to try to get rid of the smell because they're too afraid to tell Emily that her house smells, which should say something more to Emily's character than to the townspeople. Okay, and keep in mind that the narrator of this story is the townspeople as a whole. Okay, it is a collective whole. Okay, so that is part 2. Part 3. All right, we're going to start to get interesting now. So, she looks more like a girl. She's changed her appearance. She's sick. They say she's sick, but keep in mind that mental health issues are not something that are happening. They are not talked about. They are not even a known thing in the 1930s. Okay, when Faulkner published this. So we come to find that things are changing in the town. Okay, the roads are being paved by this Yankee called Homer Barron. Okay, dark, ruddy man with a big voice, eyes lighter than his face. Please know that by calling him a dark, ruddy man, he is not colored. He is white. Okay, that's why they give you that contrast to say that he's a Yankee. People would follow him. People loved Homer. Okay, they loved Homer. He is super personable. He is somebody that goes out and has fun. He goes to the boys club to have drinks with the guys. Okay, so he is he's just a people person, whereas Emily's not. She's a recluse. Okay. So it is very frowned upon that Emily ends up taking a liking to Homer because he is a laborer and she is a lady of higher status. So she should not be interested in him, but now Daddy's gone, who has shooed all possible suitors away because they weren't good enough. And now if you're into watching Lifetime movies, okay, if your dad says that no man is good enough, it's usually because he wants you for himself. Okay. So just let that thought sink in. Okay. Also, why else would she keep the body? Okay. So now that I've grossed everyone out already, great. Things are moving swimmingly. Okay. So the townspeople then say that, you know, Emily's family needs to come talk to her because she needs to get some sense knocked into her that she can't be seen canoodling with a laborer. Okay. So her aunt comes and, there was, you know, there's no, I'll get to that part. I'm sorry. So the people say, poor Emily, you know, what's going on. And as if she demanded more than recognition of her dignity as the last Grierson. She is the last Grierson. And because she's the last Grierson, she's really like the last person of that time period of the before, you know, the Industrial Revolution. She bought rat poison, they say. We'll get to that again as well. So, let's see. Her aunts do come to visit her to try to help her, and they end up leaving. Nothing gets solved. Nothing gets resolved. There's nothing. They've had enough of her. Emily is very stuck in her ways, okay? I know this isn't the best retelling of the story, but it's hard to do so without getting, you know, the interaction. Okay, so she keeps her head up high, and eventually she goes, you know, there's a point that I needed to make with this. I don't see it. Pretty soon. Okay, sorry. Okay, so the point hadn't come up yet, just so we know. Okay, so she's, you know, she's taking this liking to Homer Barron. She somehow ends up at the drugstore and tells the pharmacist, essentially, I need some poison. Please, I need some poison. And the pharmacist says, yes, but I need to know, I have to know what kind or what it's for. And she says, no, I want the best kind. So she's kind of ignoring him completely. And so he's like, well, I have this and it'll kill anything up to an elephant, but I think what you want is, and she goes, arsenic. Is that good? Yes. Which is, anybody who watches Lifetime movies knows arsenic is a woman's choice of poison. And so he still says, like, I need to know though why, because I have to write it down. The law requires you to tell what you're going to use it for. And so she just stares at him like a crazy lady, and he just writes down, okay, for rats, got it. Rats. Anyway, part 4. The next day, because the pharmacist has a big mouth and tells everybody that Miss Emily bought rat poison, everybody thinks, oh, she's going to kill herself. Then they say, no, she's going to persuade Homer to marry him. But Homer himself, this is the first paragraph of part 4, has remarked that he liked men, and it was known that he drank with the younger men in the Elks Club. He was not a marrying man, so Homer is gay. Okay, this is very important. And everybody says, poor Emily. But they also say, like, it will be for the best if she kills herself. Great townspeople, right? Horrible. Okay, let's continue on. So, she had bought, she bought the toiletries. Okay. Now, when we think of toiletries, we think of like a toothbrush and toothpaste and soap and face wash when we're going on vacation. Toiletry set for them was more like a comb and a mirror, things of that nature. Okay, so it's definitely changed. And it had Homer's initials on it. And so now people are saying, oh, they are definitely married. Okay, so the streets are finished. They're a little disappointed that, like, there's nothing exciting happening anymore. And let's see. The Homer had gone to Emily's house one day, okay? And that was the last that everybody sees of Homer. So at this point, they're all like, well, okay, cool. They move on. Everybody moves on. Somehow people move on and don't think anything of the fact that Homer is never seen again. Okay, this boggles my mind to this day. As many times as I have read this, I don't understand how townspeople are just like, cool, you went in the house and then you just never came out. It's great, it's fine. And Toby was the only one that really went in and out of the house. He would get, supplies at the market. He would get fresh fruits and vegetables. He would, run Miss Emily's errands and all of that because he's a servant. But he didn't talk. And everybody always tried to get him to talk and say, like, what was up with Miss Emily? But he, his loyalty was not to them. His loyalty was to her. Well, more specifically, probably to his father, or her father, rather. Okay. So she dies when she's 74. Okay. And at this point, Toby is still alive, just so we know. Okay. This is the more fun part. So now we're back at the end, the beginning, that she's dead. Okay. Her door has been closed for years. As people enter the house for her funeral to check it, they find a door. Okay. They find the door and they decide, let's just see what's in here because nobody's ever been in Miss Emily's house. So let's just have a look-see. Let's be rude. And so they go into this room that is locked. It has a locked door. They can't get in. So they bust it open. Toby at this point is gone because he's just like, my job's done. And in this room, they find among other things, among the toiletries, where is that? There it is. They find a man laying in bed. Okay. They just look at the fleshless grin, so there's no skin. Okay. It apparently once lain in the middle of an embrace, of a hug. And now, obviously, the long sleep, so death that outlasts love and conquers even the grimace of love, had cuckolded him. What was left of him rotted beneath what was left of the nightshirt that you could no longer pull off of a body because it had decayed so much to the bones. And upon him and upon the pillow, beside him, lay that even coating of the patient and biting dust. Okay, so he's been there a while. And then the townspeople notice that that second pillow has an indentation of the person's head. Somebody decided to be really gross and grabbed the one thing that's laying on that pillow, and it happens to be Miss Emily's hair. So this suggests that Miss Emily was sleeping with dead Homer Barron. She keeps him for almost 40 years dead. She had killed him. It is suggested that she killed him with the rat poison and then kept his body upstairs, much like she ended up keeping the body of her father. Obviously, you don't just one day say, I'm going to be a necrophiliac. Okay, let's remember, she kept her dad's body for about 3 or 4 days. Okay, so that rat poison probably gave it to Homer. Now, it's questionable as to why she would have killed Homer. Does she kill him because he doesn't love her back? Does she kill him because he's gay and won't change? Or, the theory I enjoy, Homer represents change. Okay, he came from the north. He was a laborer. He was paving the roads. He was doing things that Miss Emily was against because she was traditional. She wanted things to stay the same. Okay, so by killing him, she kills the idea of change in her life. Again, it's a fun story. It would be way better if we could be like in person and talk about everything, which is why I have the discussion post up. So if you have questions after seeing this video about the reading, put them in the discussion post, okay? Because it is graded. And hopefully the discussion post will help you for when it comes time to do your reader response paper. I think that's about all I have. Your next reading is Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been? It is delicate. Please know that I am warning you. It is dark. It has some taboo topics. I will offer another video on that one. And I think that's it on Rose for Emily. That I like hitting. Oh, I also believe that Emily's father was sexually abusing her, which is why he would not allow any suitors and not pick one for her. because he wanted her for himself. That's just my theory. It's not, there's nothing that proves this except for the thought of everything. And if you watch way too many Lifetime movies. Okay, so I believe that's it on Rose for Emily. If you guys have questions, put them in the discussion post. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.